Why is the guru so important? If it wasn't for Guruji, I'd still be like a fish on dry land, going flopping around, you know, trying to get back in the water. Mm. And he picks you up and he throws you back in the water, you know, so you're back where you belong. Mm. And I don't know where I'd be if he hadn't come and grabbed me and said, yeah, you're going there.
Jai Gurudev. Today I'm here with Danta Das from Australia, right?
Howdy.
Howdy. And well, I wanted to ask
Good day, actually.
Why did you embark on the spiritual path?
I did not embark on the spiritual path.
You did not embark on
I did not embark on the spiritual path. So I think the spiritual path finds you. You have it in you already. It's already there. It's sitting in there.
Okay, can you elaborate on that?
So there's for me, I can only speak personally, right? There's always been this desire to know God, to go deeper, and to find out, to love. Basically, it's a path. It's the path to love of God, you know. And so I was always inspired by the stories of saints. I think the first saint story I read was Saint Bernadette.
The visionary from Lourdes.
Yeah, the visionary from Lourdes. And you just, you know, reading all of it, doesn't matter what saint stories they are, they're just so beautiful to see this relationship that exists between God and us, you know, and want to be part of that relationship that happens, that God weaves, you know, through the world and allows us to experience Him and yeah, be with Him.
So which part of that story did inspire you the most, or which saint, or like what on the saints?
There are so many saints which are inspiring. I mean, and even, you don't even have to go to saints. I mean, there's even modern day stories. I was listening to a YouTube talk by a university, I think he was a Harvard professor, Jewish guy who was an atheist, total atheist, and one day he's walking along in the forest and he says suddenly the veil between heaven and earth was separated and the other world became more of a reality than this world. And then a few weeks later he was visited by Our Lady and he's just in awe of her. And he says,
Mother Mary.
Mother Mary. And he says, how can you be so beautiful? How can you be so beautiful? And so we don't have to go even to the lives of saints. We can see God working, you know, even in the lives and that's a story where Mother Mary appears, where God appears, right? And but there's also God working in our everyday life, you know, and we see that with Guruji. He works in our everyday lives, and for someone looking from the outside, they go, "Oh, that's coincidence." You know? Yeah. But as Guruji says, coincidence is for fools, he says. Coincidence is for fools.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. You're here, you've been put here on this path. Your soul is yearning for the truth, the reality. You know?
So you're basically saying everybody is longing for a higher truth. You can call it God, love, different paths speak about it in different ways, but there is no such thing that you have to embark on it, because by pure existence, our pure existence is already the spiritual journey. If you are aware of it or if you're not, it doesn't matter.
I believe, look, obviously there's long ways and short ways, and I've taken many long ways as well in my life, you know. It's not to say I've always been going the shortest route, because that's definitely not true. There's also lots of long paths. But I believe that everyone is searching for that, but they don't know it. Some people know that they're looking for it, some people don't know that they're looking for it. And when you don't know you're looking for it in the wrong places.
Okay, and that's exactly where I wanted to ask you, like, what made you aware that you are looking for that, or were you always aware through your education already that you're looking for something higher? Because I know many people, they're looking for something, but they don't actually know how to define it, what they're looking for, and therefore they're looking for it in different worldly things and whatever, and then step by step they might come across certain teachers, books, experiences, and then they start to do more consciously. So what was it for you?
That's a difficult question because it's something that, it's like a magnet drawing you. What is it that draws the nail to the magnet? Is it something in the magnet or something in the nail? You know, what does the magnet do? So it's just a pull.
That I do understand what you mean. Like it's a natural thing which everybody has.
Yeah.
But could you pinpoint an experience or situation in your life out where it became more conscious, or in other words, was there always the awareness of I'm looking for God because you were religious in your past, or was it?
So I'll put it this way. So when I met Guruji back in 2001, right?
Mm-hmm. Paramahamsa Vishwananda.
Paramahamsa Vishwananda. In 2001. Then there was a long period where we stayed in communication, but I didn't really know. I mean, he remained, to me at that stage, he remained Visham, a friend, right? And so there was a long period.
You met in France.
In France.
In a church, right?
That's right, in a monastery, exactly. Yeah. And so then when I eventually come to visit him, many years later in 2016, and I come here to the ashram, in one of our conversations, he says to me, you know, David, you've been running from your life, from your dharma, from your life purpose for 18 years. Right?
Okay. That's very encouraging.
That's encouraging. And so I think to myself, and now I feel, yes, I'm doing my life purpose, but I didn't before. I didn't feel that. And yet I was on the spiritual path. Right, okay. I was searching. Not to say, as I said, that I wasn't taking the shortest route, because I was deviating for sure. You know, on the wrong.
How would you describe the deviation?
So getting involved in the world, and that means things like so first of all, sexual pleasure, number one. It takes you away, right? Number two, having a mortgage. Having a mortgage. Because you're locked into something which drives you. And you don't, I mean, what it means is that you can't focus on God pursuits. I'll put it this way, you can't focus, I mean, I'm not saying that people in the world can't do that. Of course you can do that, but it changes the emphasis of your life. It changes the emphasis of your life, and that would have to be very big. And then also just other responsibilities. You know, I had family. Let's say I didn't have my own family, but family to look after. You know, in terms of mother and other. You know, mother mainly who got sick, and so all these demands in the world come and lock you into a situation where you find it hard to come out and express and follow that desire that you're wanting to.
So, but like when you say sexual desires, mortgage is also like you probably want a house or a car which you can't afford. So is that somehow connected with the idea I seek the pleasure through this world, through this body?
No. It was more. Well, it depends. If you're talking about the house and the mortgage and the car.
No, I mean the pleasures.
the pleasures of the flesh are pleasures of the pleasures of the flesh. They're of the body, right? Right. But they all happen in the mind in the end. Actually, they all happen in the mind.
Yeah, but most of the people, I think, are running like the whole world is directed in a place where people are given the idea that ultimate happiness and fulfillment is found in those things, like, and most of the people believe it because you don't have alternatives, because the knowledge is not there. That's where I'm trying to kind of ask you, like you seem to have always had somehow this knowledge already there. You just maybe ignored it a little bit more or less.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. There are 2 points I want to draw out. So let's come back to that one in a second and remind me that we have to go there, right? Yeah. The second point I want to draw out is, why is the guru so important? If it wasn't for Guruji, I'd still be like a fish on dry land, going flopping around, you know, trying to get back in the water. And he picks you up and he throws you back in the water, you know, so you're back where you belong. And I don't know where I'd be if he hadn't come and grabbed me and said, yeah, you're going there, you know? And
so you're basically saying the major impact of getting you where you belong was the spiritual master, was Paramahamsa Krishnananda Guruji, to take you literally and like say, no, don't go there, here's where you belong.
Exactly,
here. Like,
exactly. But listen, this is the point, right? I've been searching God all my life, right?
Okay, so there was a conscious search all your life.
There's always been a conscious search. What for those people that aren't on that conscious journey? Where are they, right?
Sorry, say again?
Where are the people? If my story, I'm looking for God, and I get deviated, and so I need a guru to come and drag me out, what of those people that aren't on a conscious journey, how much more
they need somebody.
do they need someone?
Yes.
How much more do they need someone? And they don't know it.
How much more of resistances and difficulties to
Absolutely,
overcome.
absolutely. And they don't, and this is in a certain way sad, you know, it's in a certain way sad because you know the joy that exists on the spiritual path, right? You know that God is here. He's with us. He's in us. Yeah?
Ever present, closer than our own breath.
You know?
If you would have to define spirituality in one sentence, how would you define it?
I could define it. Spirituality is the journey to wholeness.
Nice.
Into wholeness. And depending on how you view things, that wholeness becomes bigger or smaller. Right? But it's the search for wholeness, and at the smallest level it's wholeness within yourself, which brings you to wholeness with everything. We're one.
Very nice. Feels a bit weird, but I have the question on my lips, like of going even further back on that, like before you now got picked up by Guruji and put on the path, like you're now living in the ashram for some time. What did you do so far? Like
here in the ashram?
No, I mean in your life. For what? Because people sometimes think spirituality is something which actually you can only find in an ashram, or by going in a cave, or by renouncing the whole world and not doing your worldly duties, not having family, all those things. That's sometimes a concept.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? That's why I'm asking. Like, what did you?
Okay. Let me just rethink that question. Ask the question again, and I'll rethink the answer. Ask the question again.
So, what were you doing in your life before you came to Germany, to the ashram?
Okay.
And
so
connection to that, how has it changed? Like,
so here's a story. I'll share this story. I was teaching refugees, right?
In Australia.
In Australia. So they weren't Australian refugees.
Well, everybody's a refugee in Australia.
They're all convicts. I was teaching people from, there are a lot from Myanmar, refugees from Myanmar because of the persecution of minority groups, from Afghanistan, from Africa. Africa's got a lot of refugees, and so they come to Australia. And I know that I was put there because of the way I got there. I can tell the story and you can cut it out if you need to, but the story goes like this. I was, at the beginning of the week, I had this voice in my head saying, ring Chris O'Brien, she has a job for you. Now Chris O'Brien was my boss from 8 years before, right? And she said, David, if ever you want a job, give me a call, right? And so this week started with ring Chris O'Brien, she has a job for you. And I go, no, I'm not ringing. I'm not listening to voices in my head. That's absurd.
Sometimes a good choice.
And the voice repeats and it keeps going. Ring Chris O'Brien, she has a job for you. And it's, no, I'm not listening to voices in my head. So by the end of the week, I haven't rung her. And Saturday night I go to a party. And there I meet someone. And I say, what do you do? She says, oh, I teach refugees. And I said, oh, who's your boss? And she says, Chris O'Brien. I said, oh, Chris O'Brien, I know her.
My head keeps on telling me.
And so she says to me, looks at me and says, why don't you ring her? She's got a job going.
Seriously.
So I know I was put there, right? But the question, why that story? That story because God puts us where we are. And so we think, oh, we can't follow spirituality unless we're in a church or in a monastery or an ashram. God put me there, or else I wouldn't have had that voice that I didn't listen to, right? So he said, you know, this voice said, go. And so that was where I was supposed to be. That's where God wanted me. That's where God wanted me to serve. Because we serve God in others. Mm-hmm. And what people fail to recognize is they abstract God. They put God in their heads. Mm. And so God doesn't exist anymore except in their heads. And in the next person, it's like the story that Christ tells of the Samaritan on the side of the road. Mm. And who walks by? The priests walk by. Right?
What you do upon the least, you do
unto me. You do unto me. And you know, I spent a long time looking at near-death experiences. And near-death experiences are a wonderful, wonderful, rich source of stories, of what, I can't say what life is like on the other side, but a reminder of the values of life. Mm-hmm. And again and again there came through this message that the smallest of your actions are great things in heaven. They're recognized as beautiful things when they're done with love. Mm. And this woman said the smallest thing, one of the smallest insignificant things she'd done, she was on a camp. And one of these little kids had fallen down or something, I don't know, she just went over to him and held him. And she said when she had her life review, that was one of the most amazing moments of her life. Mm. She said the love that came from that, you know, and what we failed to recognize is we look at everything as physical, and so we forget that everything has impacts beyond. But I don't want to get too much out of the physical. Let's stay practical. Huh? I remember a story So what had happened? This woman came up to me one day, and she said to me, I didn't know who she was. And she said to me, oh, I remember you. I was feeling really down one day. And you came up to me and I can't even remember what I did. And she said for her, it changed things for her, you know? And this is the power we have, but we also have the power in reverse, and we forget that. Mm. We have the power in reverse. We have the power to judge, and we have the power to criticize, and we have the power to hurt people, and then that hurt goes as well. Mm. And so the spiritual journey is a journey with others. It's a journey with others, and we can't walk it. We can't walk it alone. We can't walk it alone.
And could I conclude from what you say? God is not defined by houses made of wood and stone, but He is ever present everywhere, within everybody, in every life circumstance, not for those who have gone to live in a cave or in a monastery, but He can be found everywhere and seen in everybody. If somebody has the awareness of that is actually the purpose of our existence, to love and to share love.
Even if you don't have that awareness, you have the awareness that you're human and not animal.
Well, not everybody does. Right. Sadly, not everybody does.
Even if you don't, and the call of humanity is to be human with each other. Right?
That's a good, important step.
You know? And so I think the first step in spirituality is recognize that you are human. You know, recognize you are human. Recognize your weaknesses, recognize your strengths, and recognize your brothers and recognize your sisters. We're together. We're together. We don't live on this planet as one person. Mm-hmm. You know, we're everyone together on this planet, and what one does affects everyone else. You know? So I think that's the beginning of spirituality, and the completion of spirituality in a certain sense, because when that love becomes perfected, and you recognize, so it starts off as love, and it starts off as service for the other. It starts off as recognition of the beauty of the other. Mm-hmm. And then the fulfillment of that is when eventually that becomes the recognition that you aren't serving that person, you are serving God, or you are serving your guru, because your guru is present there. And then it becomes a service to God directly. Yeah.
Within everybody.
Within everybody. Yeah.
Nice. What would you say is your greatest treasure which you have found in your life?
Guruji.
Why?
Why? You love your Creator, right? He made me.
Thank you very much. Jai Gurudev.